Hi, and welcome to another video by Jimthecarguy. Today we have a 2006, it's a Ford Expedition, and we're going to be replacing the rear brakes and rotors, and I'll bring you up close and I'll show you why we're going to be changing the rotors and why they're non-machinable. I did take the right side apart already. I'm sorry, I did take... Okay. Out on the floor. Okay, sorry about that. I did take the right side apart already. I'm waiting on the parts to get here now from the parts store, and I'll show you why we're going to change the rotors. The inside part where the parking brake actually connects onto is rusted so bad that there's no way I'm going to be able to do anything with that. So, all right, let me get in there. I'm going to show you what kind of tools we need, and we're going to get started. Basically, you need just some basic hand tools. You need a screwdriver, a little small pry bar. Of course, my favorite thing is that the silicone brake grease. You're going to need that. We're going to need probably an 18mm socket, and that's about it. All right, so let's get in there. I'll show you what it looks like, and let's get started. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is I'll show you some of the tools we're going to need. We're just going to need a couple of screwdrivers and a little pry bar, a socket. It's an 18mm with a wrench, a ratchet. And we're going to need an Allen key. It's a 7mm, and of course a pry bar here so we can get in there. So, all right, first thing we're going to do is we're going to get in the back right over here, and we're going to pry the piston back in all the way. You put a screwdriver in here, and you just keep slight pressure on it, and it starts to push the piston back in. And you go in between the brake pad and the rotor, and you push the piston all the way back in as far as it can go. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take off this clip right here, and the way you do that is you get in here with the screwdriver and you pry back on it like this a little bit, and just put your fingers in the back and you can pull it out. Don't lose it, it comes flying off sometimes. Like this. Hold on to it, we're going to need this later. All right, next thing we're going to do is up in the back of the caliper here, I'll bring you in, I'll show you in just a minute. There's a little clips, these little covers like this that actually cover the 7mm bolt that you need, the 7mm that you need to get to. So you pop these off like that, and you get in here with your ratchet, and you put it on here and just break it loose. Both of them. Once you loosen them, you can usually turn it off by hand. It's not a big deal. You don't have to take them all the way out. You're just going to loosen them. Same thing on the top here. Alright, we'll take this out of the way for now. And in the back right here is what I was telling you about with those, this Allen, the Allen key goes right in here, 7mm, and you turn it right out. We're just going to relocate this off to the side for now. We're going to take this out, and then we're going to break the 18mm bolts loose right here. Sorry about that. Okay. Now, you don't want to lose these bolts because you're going to need these to put them back on. Okay. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to get the rotor off. Now, don't force it. Take your time, because it's stuck in the back right here. I'll show you why when I get it off. Okay. You see what happens? See how much rust is on here? All that rust in there is what causes it to stick and you can't get it off. So don't force it too hard. Just work it back and forth and you'll be able to get it right off. And that's why this rotor is non-machinable. We have to get rid of it. All right. Next thing you want to do is make sure that this is nice and clean in here. There's no rust on it. If there is any rust, you want to get this scraped off with a razor blade or with a sandpaper or whatever. This is actually pretty clean, so we don't have to worry about that. Okay. New rotor obviously just goes on, just like this. Slides right on. And then we're going to reinstall our mounting bracket. Okay, before I put my mounting bracket on, you want to make sure it's nice and clean where the brake pad touches. In this case, it looks pretty good. So we're just going to put this brake caliper grease on here so everything slides nice and freely. And then we're going to reattach our bracket where we previously removed it from. Catch both of the bolts in there first and tighten them in as far as you can by hand before you tighten it with a ratchet. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to tighten it up. If you tighten the bottom with the ratchet and the top one is off a little bit, it's going to wind up being a problem and it's not going to screw in correctly. So screw it in by hand as far as you can. And then we'll tighten it up. Now I just want to point this out. Before I put this rotor on here, I did clean it with brake cleaner to get that oil off of there. That actually comes on it from the factory when they ship it to you. All right? Now, we're going to pull the brake pad out. This is how it connects in there. Now, when I put the brake pad back in, before I put it in, I always put a little bit of grease on these pins here. Makes it slide in a little bit easier. And then we can put that back in. Right, like that. Now, before I go any further, we're going to pull these slide pins out. They just slide right out of the rubber. Put a little bit of silicone on there and reinstall it. Same thing on the bottom one here. Just push it out. A little bit of silicone on here. And then we put it back in. Now when you put it back in, don't push it in too far. You want to make sure it's even with this side here. Otherwise you're going to try to get it in here and it's not going to fit correctly. All right? Now, next thing is the brake pads. You see how the brake pads have indicators right here? This is a disc indicator. You see this one doesn't have the indicator? It's on the opposite side. It's a mirror image of it. So this one is not the right one. This one is the correct one because there's the sensor. So that's the way you want to put it back on. All right, we'll slide this in here like that. Put our caliper in place. Now the piston didn't push in all the way, so we're going to have to push this back in just a little bit more. Now there's a bunch of different tools that you can use to do this. The one I use is probably from when I first started back 40 years ago. It just goes in between the brake pads like this, and you tighten it, and it'll push the piston all the way back into the bore. I don't know if you can see that or not, but you can see it pushing it back in. And once it's pushed in all the way, then you can take your tool off, remove our pad, put the caliper back up. Remember, you want to make sure the slide pins are out far enough that they don't interfere with it. Now you want to screw these slide pins in, but you're going to do them by hand. You don't use a ratchet on it yet. That's very important. As you're trying to screw it in, you just jiggle the caliper around, and you'll feel it start to grip. Don't use a ratchet, because if you try to get it in there and you cross thread it, you're going to be screwed. You're going to be changing the caliper and the mounting bracket as well. All right, so screw it in by hand, as far as you can by hand. And once you've got it screwed in all the way, then you can hit it with the ratchet and tighten it in the rest of the way. All right. Now, a very important part of the job, and you don't want to ever not put these in, because it keeps all the dirt and debris from kicking up and blocking up that 7mm Allen key there. All right. You just push these back in where they came out. They just slide right in. And now we're almost done. Well, we got to put our anti-rattle clip back on. Now, what I always do, you see how this is a little bit rusty here? Anywhere that this clip touches, you want to put a little bit of my favorite stuff, this brake grease. All right, so just a little bit on the tab there and there, and then you hook it on like this on the bottom here first, and you pull this around. You get the top caught there. You push your finger here, and you push it, and it snaps right in place. That's it. You're done. All right. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the other side. And we're going to do the exact same procedure on the other side, which I already started. But I'm going to bring in here, I'm going to show you one more time everything that you have to do to make the job come out perfectly. Okay. All right, so now let's move this stuff out of the way. Okay, I hope you can see here. We tightened up our 18mm bolts here to hold the mounting bracket to the hub assembly. We tightened up those 7mm bolts that were inside here and put the covers back over the top of it. We also put our anti-rattle clip back on, and that's it. We're all set. All right, if I can help you out with anything, if you need any advice or any information, send me an email. I'll be more than happy to talk to anybody about anything. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.